Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. We got guys an update on a major severe weather outbreak that we're expecting to occur tonight, as well as into the afternoon and evening hours of tomorrow. I've got all the details coming right up. Right, so thank you for joining me here on this Tuesday afternoon. We have a lot to talk about in this video. We're talking about again a pretty significant multi-day severe weather and tornado outbreak that's about to unfold here across portions of the central United States. We're talking about a significant threat for tornadoes today, maybe even a higher tornado threat tomorrow. So we're going to get started here by taking a look at your current satellite, and you can see we already do have a pretty good kind of idea of where our surface low is that's causing all this commotion at the moment. You can see right around here is where you're starting to see that kind of the comma shaped little hook at the bottom here of the surface low. So it's starting to produce a lot of precipitation up north. We're seeing a lot of that heavy wintry precipitation, but down here into the central plains is where we're looking for that kind of first round of severe thunderstorms. We are expecting to see some tornadoes, some in which could definitely be strong, and some pretty giant hail out here later today. So you can actually see, if we look, that it appears that there are some pretty significant breaks in the clouds here, which basically just means that there is so much warm air that's able to feed into these storms that will eventually develop later today from all this open sunlight and warm air. So that's just going to cause more and more problems today. So that kind of just makes matters worse. But the rest of the country looks pretty good. The eastern United States is clearing up pretty well after the remnants of our storm system that brought that severe weather last weekend is starting to move out. And then you can see a little bit of cloudiness with another swirl out here as we have another low pressure system kind of bringing some wintry precipitation for those upper elevations, but really just some kind of showery activity for the most part elsewhere. All right. So we're going to be moving on here to your alerts. And you can see we are pretty active across the country. We're going to start out here in the north central United States, where you can see we actually do have some winter storm warnings going out for portions of northern and central Minnesota, down into portions of southeastern North Dakota, and into northeastern South Dakota, again, for that winter storm that is expected to bring multiple inches of snow, maybe even some freezing rain and some sleet later today into tomorrow as that surface low is continuing to move across the eastern United States. You can see we also do have some a lot of counties out here, a big area under wind advisories, going out all the way from really central Indiana and Illinois, all the way down through the Mississippi River Valley, through portions of Tennessee, and then all the way down to Mississippi and even southern Louisiana there. So very windy conditions expected. And you can see we also do have some more wind advisories going out for portions of Oklahoma, all the way up through central Kansas and into eastern Nebraska there. So a lot going on with that. And then you can see behind where all of our moist air is going to be, right in this kind of dry slot, what we call a dry line, behind where we're going to see this dry line set up here for severe weather set up across Kansas and Oklahoma. To the west of there, we are talking about very windy and dry conditions. So obviously that will definitely kind of combine to create a hazardous fire threat. So please make sure you're not burning anything outside, messing around with anything that's flammable if you are currently under these red flag warnings. But that's currently going out for the panhandle of Texas, down into western Texas, and into portions of southwestern Kansas there. So again, dry and windy conditions expected with high wind warnings actually going out for portions of central and eastern New Mexico and portions of southeastern Colorado. So that's pretty much it for the most part. You do have some flood watches going out for portions of the Ohio Valley down through maybe portions of southern Arkansas and Missouri. But again, nothing much going on other than that. So we move on to the Storm Prediction Center. This is today's outlook. You can see we do have a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for severe weather. This is including portions of eastern Missouri down into portions of Kansas and into central and northern Oklahoma there. So again, please make sure you are staying extra weather aware today, as this definitely will bring the threat for multiple tornadoes, some in which could definitely be strong. But so we take a look at your tornado threat, and you can see this does include a 10% hatch tornado threat, which means that anywhere inside this hatch threat, that is where we have a significant chance for seeing tornadoes within an EF2 to EF5 strength there. So basically, we have a significant chance to see strong tornadoes anywhere within this hatch risk area, which includes all of the 10%. But you can see we also do have a 5 and 2% for the surrounding areas. So make sure that even if you're not on the highest level of kind of concern here, that you're still definitely paying attention to the weather and staying weather aware today, because obviously there will be tornadoes and tornadic supercells outside of the 10% hatched area. But we move over to our wind threat. You can see it also is a 30% hatched threat. So again, significant chance for strong winds, strong and damaging winds here across portions of eastern Kansas. This is really where we're expecting kind of that bow echo to develop later into tonight, and I think that's definitely going to present the highest wind threat. So again, winds in excess of 65 knots are going to be possible here across portions of that hatch risk. And then you can see we also have a very broad 15% risk in that yellow shade. That's where we're expecting a general threat to see some severe winds and possibly even some damaging winds. And then surrounding that, we have another 5%. Then finally, today's hail threat, so 30%, including all of that 10% hatched area. All right, this is where we're expecting basically just all those supercells producing tornadoes to also to produce very large hail. I do think hail in excess of 3 inches in diameter, it's going to be a possibility. In fact, if we go over to our current mesoscale discussions, we can actually look. They did issue one about an hour ago here for just portions of western Oklahoma. This is just east of the Panhandle, and you can see that they are monitoring for dryline initiation. So we will start to see supercells initiate along the dryline. And what they're saying for the most probable peak intensity, which is a new kind of feature they added to these mesoscale discussions, is that the hail threat is 2 to 3.5 inches in diameter. So again, that is definitely going to be a big concern today, as that definitely meets the destructive criteria for severe warning. And then again, that 3.5 inch mark, I mean, you're getting close to softball. I mean, a large apple size. I mean, this is really, really big hail that we're seeing. And then obviously the wind threat thrown on the 80-mile-per-hour tag, and even that max probability of a tornado being 150 miles per hour. So that's just going to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're looking for as this event just now starts getting going here. But that's what we got cooking for today. So again, big enhanced risk for portions of far western Missouri down through eastern Kansas and portions of central and northern Oklahoma, with surrounding areas in that slight risk. And then obviously in that green shade, you have your marginal risk, right? So we move on here to the HRRR. We're going to be breaking down this event hour by hour. So this is the evening run of the HRRR. So we take a look as we go into the evening hours. You can see we do start to see storms initiate right around just about a couple hours from now. Right now, these are looking like weak supercells, but we do see some storms initiate here across portions of southern Nebraska and Kansas. So we will be watching for this kind of to start our damage and wind threat, because remember, that's where we do have our 30% hatched wind threat that's out here in portions of northeastern Kansas. And you can see these cells do eventually congeal into a line, and this line I definitely do think will be capable of producing very strong to damaging winds, likely up to 80 miles per hour. So I definitely do think that this is an area to be concerned about. And then you can see as we get into the overnight hours and evening hours, we all of a sudden do get a big burst in activity here with supercells initiating here across portions of central Oklahoma. And as soon as these things grow upscale, these will start to rotate immediately, as you do have a very, very unstable environment ahead of these storms. And we do have obviously very strong shear out here. So that's going to just, allow for these storms to rotate. And these do look like discrete in these storms will be discrete in nature, meaning that they're going to be spaced apart. Therefore, they're going to have enough room to start rotating, and they're not going to really have to worry about mergers and kind of clog inflow, if that makes sense. So basically, these storms are going to be so spaced apart that they're all going to be able to take advantage of the environment. And we continue to go through the overnight hours. I mean, the HRRR is going for 4, 5, maybe even 6 different supercells. I'm talking significant supercells that all likely have the capability of producing very large to destructive hail and very, very strong tornadoes there. And this continues through the overnight hours. I mean, look at this cell going through, the Tulsa area. I mean, this is what we're going to be seeing later tonight. And that damaging wind threat does persist. And again, you can see that big line of strong thunderstorms, likely again producing damaging winds up to 80, maybe even 90 miles per hour out in this area. I think 90 miles per hour is a little far to kind of push that wind threat. But again, you get the idea. I mean, if it's a 30% hatch, we're talking about a very high-end wind threat for today. So pretty concerning stuff kind of all around here with our overall threat. And then you can see all that activity does move out through the overnight hours. Now, that does kind of start to bow out a little bit as those supercells diminish, but this is still a pretty well-defined and kind of full blown line here that we're seeing go through portions of now northwestern Missouri. So I think definitely Kansas City, be on the lookout for damaging winds as we get into late tonight into early tomorrow morning, and then all that moves on out. So again, very busy evening and night expected. Big busy times ahead. But again, this is a full blown cluster of at least five, six, maybe even seven supercells that will again be capable of producing all hazards, damaging winds, very large hail, and even some strong tornadoes. So this is why we're expecting today to be such a concerning event, and also just the fact that our storm mode is going to be discrete, meaning that all these storms are going to have their capability of producing rotation, and obviously that will lead to tornadic activity. So we move on to the HRRR. We take a look again at our significant tornado parameters. So this basically shows us what the HRRR is, what areas the HRRR is highlighting for the best environment to support strong tornadoes. And you can see just as we get into that hour 12 mark, which is as we're getting to the overnight, this is the evening and overnight hours. You can see we do see these STP values really spike. We're getting up to a 10 here on the STP. This looks just to be south of Oklahoma City, so we can actually take a sounding here from right around the Oklahoma City metro area. And as this loads, you can see that we have a very, very elongated and curved photograph, very big and broad photograph, meaning that you're going to have a lot of low-level rotation. You're going to see a lot of these storms kind of produce mesocyclones, which will, obviously be able to produce tornadoes. You'll see rotating wall clouds. This is what we're going to see all through today. Our possible hazard type is shown to be a tornado. And another thing to note is if you look at the effective layer STP, which is basically what we're looking at, the significant tornado parameter in the effective layer, you can see it is maxed out at an 11 here. So very, very high STP values, again, showing the potential for a significant tornado. Strong significant tornado is going to be possible today. You can see that we have a big drop off there in your dew points. So with steep lapse rates, that means that you're going to have a huge threat for large hail, because as soon as you get into the 700 to 500 millibar, kind of layer of the atmosphere, that's when you're going to start to see that kind of dry layer results, and that's where you're going to get all that large hail from there. But you can see Cape levels are very, very high, over 3,000 joules per kilograms. So this is a very, I'm talking extremely concerning sounding here. Also to note, effective layer shear is at 61 knots, which is considered pretty favorable for rotating supercells. But again, if you look at your wind speeds and your direction, as soon as you change in height, the direction of that wind is going to change. So that's going to show that there is going to be very strong low-level shear, which again is another thing that is vital for these storms to start rotating. But that's very concerning, considering that is taken right around the Oklahoma City metro area. And you can see throughout the rest of tonight for several hours, the HRRR wants a very big area of Oklahoma. We're seeing STP values from all the way really from northern Texas through central Oklahoma into even southeastern Kansas. The HRRR is calling for multiple hours of an environment capable of producing strong tornadoes here, with SCP values of at least 6 out in these areas shaded in the brown and tan shades here. So basically what we're trying to tell you here is that there will definitely be the threat for strong to significant tornadoes for several hours across these areas before we start to see this kind of diminish in the overnight hours. We're talking about, early morning hours of tomorrow, but I'm very concerned about this because this is going to be coming through the overnight hours while people are asleep, and also it's going to be dark out, so you're not going to be able to see the tornado. And I know a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll get the warning and they'll go outside and wait to see the tornado, which obviously you shouldn't do in the first place, but because it's going to be dark as well, it's pretty much impossible to see the tornadoes. So we really need to make sure that everyone is taking these warnings seriously and that they're getting to shelter if you do get put under a tornado warning. But really, the tornado threat doesn't diminish until I'm talking the late overnight hours, even into the early morning hours of tomorrow. So that's how late we're talking about this tornado threat. So again, big day coming up for tonight. And then we talk about tomorrow. Now, tomorrow looks like a potentially even more concerning threat, as we do have a moderate level 4 to 5 risk for severe weather extending from portions of southern Illinois and Indiana down through western Kentucky into western Tennessee, portions of northeastern Arkansas, the Boot Heel, Missouri, and into northern Mississippi. This is a level 4 out of 5 risk, so very high risk here on the Storm Prediction Center. A moderate risk is something that is not taken lightly from the Storm Prediction Center. It's relatively rare, and we have seen a couple this year already. So, again, it kind of just shows you how active we are in terms of just severe weather season. But this is, again, going to be another big day. Likely we'll see a severe weather outbreak unfold from this, but we also do have a very broad enhanced risk. It's a level 3 to 5 risk extending all the way from southern Michigan down through the mid Mississippi River Valley into the southern plains there, all the way down to northeastern Texas. So, very broad enhanced risk area. You can see the moderate risk, including a total population of just over 4 million people, but an enhanced risk, including a population of over 42.5 million people. So pretty wild stuff, just kind of with the numbers here. But there will be a lot of major population centers under the gun for severe weather tomorrow. As again, it does look like a bit of a even more significant threat as we get into the afternoon and evening hours of tomorrow. But you can see also we have a slight risk surrounding all that, and then also a marginal risk in those yellow and green shades. So we look at tomorrow's tornado threat. It is a 15% hatched tornado threat, meaning that we have a 15% hatched threat, or a 15% threat of chance of seeing strong to significant tornadoes within 25 miles of a given location. The hatch risk also does extend into portions of the 10%. So that means that there is a chance for seeing significant and potentially even strong tornadoes within 25 miles of a given point inside any of these hatched zones. And then you can see we also have a very broad 5% and 2% surrounding these areas. So again, if you're on the moderate risk, or the 15%, if you're in the 15% or the 10% hatch zone, that's where you're going to have the highest chance for seeing tornadoes. So we really need to make sure that everyone under the gun for severe weather tomorrow is extra weather aware, and you really need to make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings, because now is the time to prepare. Make sure that you have your tornado safety plan ready, and that you know where to go and when to go whenever you do get put under a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, just so you can make sure that you are reducing the possibility of loss of life there. But move over to our wind threat, and you can see it is a very broad 30% hatch threat extending all the way from southern Michigan down through portions of Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois, into all the way down into portions of far eastern Arkansas. So again, damaging winds is going to be a huge threat for tomorrow. I think that is definitely possible. We could get an upgrade to a 45% chance of damaging winds. I would draw that personally. I would draw that somewhere in here. So we'll have to see what the next model trends show, but I think that there will be eventually a huge line of thunderstorms that will definitely be capable of producing damaging winds. But again, really significant threat for all hazards tomorrow, and then you can see we also do have a 15 and 5% for those surrounding areas there. And then finally, we move over to your hail threat. Again, it is another 30% hatch extending all the way from southern Indiana and Illinois down through the Mississippi River Valley, all the way down into northeastern Texas, covering the enhanced, moderate, and even portions of the slight risk there. But that also does include that 15% threat, and then that 5% for those surrounding areas. So again, big time hail threat, big time wind threat, and again, that tornado threat is going to be very, very high for tomorrow. So all hazards are on the table. It looks like it's going to be a pretty significant severe weather and tornado outbreak. But again, a moderate risk is something that we don't see, a whole lot every year. So we really need to make sure that we don't sleep on this threat, and that we're, not taking this lightly, because this definitely does look like one of those more significant days, and I definitely am starting to get much more concerned about this after the Storm Prediction Center upgrading their threat. But we're going to break down this entire severe weather setup and this threat. So we're going to start out here by taking a look at your HRRR. We're going to look at this hour by hour. So as you can see, as we get into the early morning hours of tomorrow, all that leftover convection from tonight is going to move out of the area and lift off to the north. Look what happens as we get into the afternoon and evening hours of Wednesday. You immediately get an explosive line of supercells that convect here all the way up from really northern Missouri all the way down to portions of eastern Oklahoma. But along this line, there will be pockets of embedded rotation. There will be many supercells, again, capable of producing tornadoes. Because you're going to have a lot of shear, and those kinematics are definitely going to be strong enough. They're going to be there to produce those tornadoes. And you can see that line does quickly become a lot more pronounced. And you can see that it kind of weakens out as it moves over to the east, but then it re-strengthens as that warm sector continues to pull off to the north. And you start to see a much more favorable environment kind of set up here just in front of this line of supercells. I will say the storm mode is looking a little bit more messy, so I do think that a downtrend is going to be possible. Now, do I think that they're going to remove the moderate risk? Probably not, considering that they put it out day two. Usually, when that happens, they're pretty certain that a major severe weather event's going to happen. But I think that this would hopefully decrease somewhat the tornado threat. But again, I definitely do think that strong to long track tornadoes are definitely going to be possible out here, really all the way from southern Illinois down through portions of northern Arkansas. But anywhere along this line where you see these kind of bubbly areas, this is where we're seeing those embedded areas of rotation, obviously the supercells. And you can even see a ton of updraft helicity tracks showing up here on the HRRR right as these storms get into the moderate risk area. This is what we're concerned about. Even if the storm mode is not exactly discrete, there will certainly be the possibility of embedded areas rotation, which will be able to put down strong to significant and maybe even long track tornadoes as we get through the evening and overnight hours of tomorrow into Thursday here. So, very, very concerning looks from the HRRR. The storm mode has definitely looked a little bit more messy off the latest trends, but we definitely still cannot sleep on this threat because, again, even if the storm mode isn't exactly perfect for storms to be completely discrete, that doesn't mean that we're not going to see tornadoes. So there still will be many areas of embedded rotation, and this continues through the overnight hours. And at this point, it looks like this is going to be mostly a damaging windbag here with likely kind of just a QLCS, again, with embedded rotation. But this kind of continues to move off to the east, extending all the way out from really the Ohio Valley down through portions of Arkansas and far western Tennessee. And this, again, still brings that tornado threat, but that damaging wind threat will definitely ramp up towards the later end of this event. But I definitely do think for that hail threat, it's going to be for these cells that are going to be producing tornadoes. I think if we see more discrete cells, that hail threat will be much larger. But I think the two main hazards for tomorrow are most likely going to be tornadoes and damaging winds. But again, do not sleep on that hail threat, as the hail threat will be there, and we will see very, very destructive hail as we get into the event tomorrow. So this is definitely going to be, and I think that this is going to be something that we really need to make sure that everyone is aware of, and that everyone has multiple ways to receive warnings. Because in these situations, just because the one model shows a different scenario, another shows a little bit less of a concerning scenario, you really need to make sure that everyone is not sleeping on this threat. Because again, that we do end up seeing a very favorable storm mode, and we do see more of that high-end severe weather and tornado outbreak unfold. And in that case, obviously, it's crucial for people to know to receive warnings. So again, I will be going live for both of these events, so make sure, if you haven't already, that you like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can get this set to as many people as possible. But if we take a look at your bulk shear here from the HRRR, this is looking at basically how strong our wind shear is from 0 to 6 kilometers into the atmosphere. So basically, just showing us where we could have enough wind shear to see rotation within these thunderstorms. And you can see as that line continues to progress along the line, we are going to see upticks in the shear. And wherever you see these purple or even red shades, this is where we're seeing 60 plus knots of shear. So very, very strong wind shear in the lower levels of the atmosphere. This is going to be capable, or this is going to be supportive of, again, producing those areas of rotation. So this is another thing that's concerning forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center. This is another reason why they did push that moderate risk out. Because the shear and the kinematics are definitely starting to uptick. So that is just going to enable the threat for seeing embedded areas rotation within that line. And you can see that this continues throughout the overnight hours, even getting up to near 90 knots in some places. So again, very, very concerning look on the kinematics, and then it kind of moves on out from there. So the wind shear definitely will be there. It's going to be strong. It's not going to be the strongest we've ever seen, and that's why we're not seeing a high risk. I think if we saw a better storm mode with discrete cells and obviously stronger shear, that's where we could have a high risk scenario. But the reason why we're not seeing that with this update is because, or this storm is because the storm mode, is a little bit more messy, where we're seeing all the storms kind of congeal into one line, and also the shear isn't as strong as past significant events. But again, this is still definitely going to be a very very dangerous event to say the least here. So we move on here again to the HRRR for the same region. We're going to take a look at dew points. This measures kind of how moist our warm sector is going to be. So you can see as we get into tomorrow afternoon, ahead of this line, the whole entire region here is going to have dew points above 60 degrees, with some areas getting into the mid and even upper 60s. So again, if this overlaps the areas of the most shear, that means that you're going to have very strong kinematics and a very, very moist warm sector, which that's something that forecasters look for whenever they forecast severe weather here. But this whole area is going to definitely have a very, very muggy and kind of just warm sector, meaning that this environment will definitely be capable of producing explosive thunderstorms with all hazards there, and obviously this will just continue to help out that tornado, wind, and damaging hail threat. And you can see that these dew points continue to stay elevated here as that line moves off to the east. So we move on here to the NAM. We're going to take a look at your surface-based cape. So this basically is showing us how unstable the atmosphere is, and how much kind of thunderstorm juice that we have in the atmosphere for these thunderstorms to really develop and to become explosive. And you can see just as these storms do fire off here across portions of Missouri and Arkansas, you can see cape levels do rise just above 3,000 joules per kilograms, which is considered very, very high. So very high instability levels. But notice as these storms move off to the east and congeal into a line, those levels do decrease pretty drastically there. So I think that's where we could have room for possible downtrend. Again, that is likely because that line is going to become a little bit more stable. But because we have the shear and because we have such a warm atmosphere, that's where we're going to still have the potential to see rotation and obviously the threat for seeing strong to long track tornadoes. But you can see as soon as we see those thunderstorms congeal into the line, those the cape levels really decrease from there, and really they get down to pretty much zero as we get to the very end of the event. So for the last part of the update, I do want to, again, go back to the HRRR here and look at the significant tornado parameter for tomorrow's event. So this is the same thing we looked at just a little bit earlier for tonight's event. And you can see as those storms do initiate, the SDP values do increase here. We'll take a look at, this is far eastern Oklahoma. So you can see marginal tornado possible hazard type. That actually is a pretty contaminated sounding, so a little bit unreliable there. But you can see as these storms make it into the moderate risk area, the SDP values do increase right here. You can see getting up to about 4.8 in western Kentucky, which is right in the middle of our moderate risk. This kind of gives you guys an idea of what the environment's going to look like. So you can see our possible hazard type is a tornado. Effective layer FCP is pretty high here, getting up to about a 6, but very, very broad and curved photograph there, again, showing the signs of low-level rotation and obviously supporting the threat for tornadoes. And you can see that our significant tornado parameter stays elevated throughout most of the event. So that kind of just shows us that, again, the tornado threat's going to be high. And, based off of what we looked at in the past, portions of this update, all of these parameters that we're looking at are basically what they're showing is that this environment's going to definitely be supportive of all hazards. But I think the main hazards at this point will definitely be tornadoes and damaging winds. So that's all I got for you guys. Thank you for coming to watch. I hope you guys have a good day out there. Obviously, stay safe. Make sure you have multiple ways to receive warnings. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel and liking this video so that you can make sure that you don't miss out on any live streams, because we will be here for live weather coverage to cover this when the event does happen. So again, make sure that you are staying tuned. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for coming to watch. I'll see you guys in the next video.